and welcome back to the Whoa, That's Good podcast, everybody. Happy Wednesday. I hope you're having a great week, but per usual, it is about to get so much better. This person needs really no introduction, but I will give her an introduction because I want to, because I love her so much and I want to honor her for who she is. We actually have Catherine Wolf coming on the podcast today, author of Hope Heals, author of a new book. Y'all check this out, Treasures in the Dark, and this is such an incredible resource. If you do not go buy this book right now, then you crazy and you missed it, because this is going to bless your life. Catherine does so many amazing things, but who she is just an amazing woman that I can't wait to learn from more on this podcast. So Catherine, welcome to the Whoa, That's Good podcast.
Oh, Sadie, thank you so much. I am so thankful to be here.
You are a true joy and a gem, and I'm grateful. I said this before, but I'm grateful that I've gotten to learn from you up close, like literally having lunch with you and being, a passion with you and the things. But I also learn so much from you from afar that you probably don't realize, because I don't tell you every time I listen to your stuff or read your book or do whatever. So you're amazing.
Oh, gosh.
Truly.
You're so sweet. Thank you. And likewise, things like passion, I'm learning from you. So it's a cycle. It's a fest of continued learning from each other.
There's like a verse in Romans, and I'm probably going to botch it, but I love it because it basically says, like, as I am encouraging you, I'm being encouraged by you. And I love that so much. And that is definitely how my friendship is with you. So I can't wait to dive in. And first of all, I can't believe you haven't been on this podcast. What the world?
Know.
That just feels crazy. But part of me is like excited for all the listeners, because a lot of people do know your story and everything. But I'm like, now we get just a fresh, like, full story, all the fun chats, all about the book, everything. So I hate that you haven't been on until this point, but because of that, we have so much to talk about.
This is the perfect time. Yes.
It's the perfect time. Well, I'll start with the question that I ask everyone who comes on the podcast for the first time, and I hope I don't hit you where you haven't expected. I hope someone prepped you for this. But I always ask everyone the question, what is the best piece of advice that you have ever been given, Catherine Wolf?
Oh, good. No one prepped me for it, but I'm here for it. I love that question. The best piece of advice, when I moved to Los Angeles before my stroke, when I was newly married, and it was a crazy time in my life, a sweet man told me that when people move to Los Angeles, many times they use it as a means to an end, to further their career, to do something cool, in their life. And instead, make this your home. Really live here, plant deep roots. Don't waste this time. And we didn't. As you would know, because you know my story, we had incredibly deep, real friendships and so much community that when I had a massive stroke out of nowhere several years later, there was several hundred people in the waiting room holding vigil, praying for me when they were operating on the life-saving brain surgery. So I've never articulated that before that way, Sadie. You just brought that out of me.
Wow.
But how beautiful to hear that sweet man's advice to go deep, to not wait. Just not wait till you start your life when you have a kid or when you're older, but jump in now, plug in deep to community, because you'll need it so badly. So
great. Gosh,
that was it.
That is so, I love asking that question, because it does bring something so special out of everyone, because typically the best piece of advice you've ever been given was at a time that you really needed it, and then it was pivotal for what was going to happen next. And so to hear that that's what he told you then, and you were able to go so deep with people in community, and that is something that I think so many people long for, community, and they want those deep roots, but they don't do the intentional steps that it takes to get that. And actually, I remember sitting with someone one time, and they had moved a couple times, and they were living here, and then they were leaving. And I remember really asking her, like, why are you leaving? You haven't been here very long. And she said, we just want to be somewhere where we can have roots. And I remember having this conversation with her. You don't just stumble upon roots, you grow roots. And so you're never going to move to a place where there's just roots waiting for you. No, like you get to a place and then you plant the seeds and you watch the roots grow over time as you water and nurture. And I do think that so many people, again, you want the roots, you want the depth, you want the community, but you got to do the steps that it takes to get that. And that's
right, but you don't want the work that's involved.
The work.
Showing up and listening well and learning and finding the people without the other people and making them your people. And nobody wants to talk about that or do that. They just want instant community, and that doesn't exist.
That is so true. So good. Okay, so you've hinted at your story a little bit of having a stroke and a major brain operation. So can you tell the listeners just your story of moving to LA and what happened next?
Sure. Born and raised in Athens, Georgia, went to college in Birmingham, Alabama, at Sanford, married my college sweetheart, and we went on an adventure to California when we were young and crazy, and we're living a dream, had a baby. Along the way, I was at the time doing something called commercial print modeling, which isn't like modeling. It's not like some weird high fashion, super thin, bizarre. No. This was like Target ads and Disney catalogs. And I mean, I was paying the bills. It wasn't my calling, but we were having fun. New baby in tow, and he is 6 months old. Went out of nowhere, absolutely nowhere. No medical history, no family history, no warning of any kind. I had a massive brainstem stroke and very nearly died from a birth defect called an AVM, which is like a really, really bad brain aneurysm that ruptures in your brainstem. And mine actually had 4 aneurysms on top of it and was the largest the doctors had ever seen. And all the doctors on call were going to let me die in the waiting room. And a brave surgeon decided to try because he saw that baby and thought, I got to give this mother a chance. And took me into surgery, and 16 hours later, I came out alive. And he knew very well that he had to alter my life dramatically, that I would now be someone, if I were to live post-surgery, major deficits. And my husband always says that the doctor came out of the waiting room and said, she's alive, and we don't know what it will look like. She may be vegetative. She may never walk. We don't know, but she's alive. And he always says the smallest sign of life was the beginning of his hope. And I became, after the stroke, severely disabled. I could not eat or speak or walk, and was taken down to being almost like a baby. I had to relearn everything. And today, 16 years later, I'm still very impaired. I use a wheelchair, as you can see, but I guess your listeners can't. My face is paralyzed, and I can't drive a car. My eyes don't track, and blah, blah, blah. I have many ongoing health problems and even some neurological issues that they finally linked up to a condition I have that caused all of this. And so, yeah, it's been rough. I've taken some bad falls, broken several bones. It's been really difficult, 16 years. And it's also been an amazing 16 years. I've gone on to have a second biological child who's now 8 years old, named after the neurosurgeon who saved my life.
Wow.
Really cool.
Wow.
And I founded with my husband a camp for families with disabilities, which is amazing. It's called Hope Hills Camp.
So good.
All your listeners should come volunteer. It's phenomenal. I've written some books. I speak a lot. And most recently, my husband and I, our ministry, actually opened a brick and mortar manifestation of that same ethos of camp. It's a coffee shop with really fabulous coffee, I must say, in Buckhead in Atlanta where we live. So you got to come visit.
When I think back on the pregnancies that I had, I think about all the women that were surrounding me during that time, giving me advice for what I was about to step into. And I will always be so thankful for my support network during each of my pregnancies. But for some mothers who find themselves in an unplanned situation and might feel like they have nowhere to turn, I want to tell you about my partners at Preborn, because they stand up and give these moms the support that they need. Preborn provides free ultrasounds for mothers with unplanned pregnancies so that they can meet their babies for the very first time. I remember how powerful those moments were for me. I love ultrasound so much. I remember just the first time you hear your baby's heartbeat, it is just the most incredible thing in the world. And actually, once a mother hears her baby's heart beating, she's actually twice as likely to choose life, which is such a miracle. She's getting to hear that miracle inside of her. So Preborn doesn't get any help from government funding, so their amazing work is totally dependent on people like us and the pro-life community coming around them. More than 280,000 babies have had their mother choose their life thanks to Preborn, but they don't stop at just life-saving ultrasounds. This might be my favorite part about what Preborn does. They also provide love, support, and free counseling for up to 2 years, which is so amazing. They truly do believe in moms and want to help moms thrive with their child. So one ultrasound is just $28, so a gift of $140 can save the lives of 5 babies. 5 saved lives can truly change the entire world. I firmly believe that, you never know what little life is going to be born into the world that's going to change the world themselves by just being the light in it. And so I have been just so excited for this partnership with Preborn. I love their mission. I love how not only are they, helping the mom as she's pregnant, but they're helping her after she has the baby, because I experienced, that postpartum anxiety, and it was such a hard thing, and that's when I really needed people around me. And so to know that they're providing that for other moms and the counseling they're going to go through, if you're going to give to anything, I highly encourage you to give to Preborn. They're going to come around mamas and help them do the best job that they can do. So together, you and I can help mothers choose life. Please join us in the fight. All gifts are tax deductible. To donate, dial pound 250 on your cell and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250 and use the keyword baby, or go to preborn.com/Sadie. That's preborn.com/Sadie. Wow, I want to come visit truly so badly, because I've sent people, friends to your camp. We've talked about that, who it just so majorly impacted, and hearing the stories from them, I was like, Christian, we have to go. We have to go.
Oh my gosh.
And I've gotten to taste your coffee, and it's so good, because y'all sent some beans. And so
yes.
Really and truly, we could sit here all day and talk, and it would be a dream, but I know we don't have that much time. But I'm saying this to the listeners right now, because we're about to talk for the next, 30, 40 minutes. But let me just tell you, when you get to know Catherine Wolf, you have the best deep dive of your life after this. You have books to read that are so good. You have podcasts to listen to. You have a camp to go to. You have a coffee shop to stop by. This is the best introduction to your best new friend. But truly, Catherine, everyone that I know that knows you is she's just the best. You're just absolutely incredible. But I remember just speaking to your story. I remember at Passion Conference, and I know your story. I've heard your story several times from you. And I remember the last Passion that you spoke at, it just gripped me in such a fresh way. But when you stood up on stage and you said this line, you said, you have stunning capacity to do really hard things. And I have said that to so many people since I heard you say that. I've said that to myself. I actually quoted you and wrote that in my next book coming out, because
no way.
That's why I told you. You don't know how much you've impacted me, and little things that you've said and different things that I've heard you say. But you really do have a stunning capacity to do really hard things. And when I think about your life, because it really hits me I don't know, it just hits deep. I almost didn't wear mascara today because I knew I was probably going to get emotional talking. But I just feel like I'm 26 right now, and I've done different modeling and acting and different things. And I just feel like similar to where you were at, where you were modeling and acting and having your first baby and 26 years old, you never thought that was going to happen to your life, obviously. Right. None of us expect the worst to happen in our life. But the fact that you have not only survived it, but you have you've survived it, you've thrived in it, and you've also helped so many other people who go through the absolute worst or the tragedy or the hardest thing, not only just survive it, but really live a life full in it. And that is just like so incredibly inspiring. So I want to talk a little bit about hope and what that word has meant to you and how, I guess, you started to find hope after that really, really hard time when you were coming back into your new reality.
Right. And, well, first of all, that's so powerful. You're saying that you are currently a 26-year-old young mother and very similar probably to me, loves the Lord. As a 26-year-old, I did not know the depth of Jesus that I do today, but similarly, had a feeling early on after the stroke as still a 26-year-old, like, wait, this is not a drill. This is not a drill. This is my real life.
Yeah.
And it was, you can imagine, like, you can't even fathom everything changing in an instant, and you can never drive a car again and can never walk again and on and on. I can't hold your baby. It's the stuff of your nightmares. And yet, even in those nightmare situations, Jesus sustained and carried me because, as you said, we do not know this, but we have stunning capacity because of Jesus in our story to do incredibly hard things because he will supply every need. His divine power has given us everything that we need. He gives us eyes to dream new dreams for our lives that are better than our old dreams could ever be. He gives us the ability to endure and to persevere and he gives us new eyes to see a new reality.
Wow.
And I guess that's the beginning of me answering the question of this hope. Is the reality is for all of your listeners and for you and for me, we could play the what if game nonstop. Everybody could say, what if I did this? What if I did that? What if I married this guy? What if I hadn't gone here? What if I went there? And for me, I have a pinnacle story of I was getting dizzy in college and went to the doctor, and the doctor wrongly diagnosed me with vertigo. And had he ordered an MRI, he would have seen that this was in my brain, and he didn't. So what if I would have had an MRI? You get it, on and on. But the reality is that this what if loop, this cycle we all do, gets us nowhere, paralyzes us, and terrorizes us. But the escape hatch, I believe, off of the loop is hope. That when we have real hope, we're off. We're like, nope, this is it. Because hope gives us permission to live our actual lives. It frees us to say, no more of this. Instead, I'm going. I'm not going to waste my life. I want to escape and then have permission to move from what if to what is.
That's
and
good.
What is right here, here. And this is what I do.
That is so good. I'm like, wow, I wish I could stand up and take a lap. I always say this to people who are on the podcast. I say, these are the moments I wish I wasn't the host and I was a listener, because I'm like, where can I write this down? I need to make my own notes. I'm like taking this in for myself. I literally am looking I'm literally looking over at my pen and my paper. I'm like, how far would it take for me to reach that and write that down? Because it's actually so crazy, because I probably, shouldn't say this because it's so not well thought out yet, but I'm already thinking about what I'm going to speak on at LO conference. And one thing that I keep thinking about is just our spiritual reality and how our spiritual reality is so different than what our reality looks like in the moment. And I just think that whole what if to what is exactly what I feel like God's been putting in my heart to saying, like, hey, don't think about the what ifs. Don't think about even what it looks like in the right now. Like what is actually true in the right now is this. It's this truth of Scripture. It's this truth of what I say about you, of who I made you to be. And so I'm sitting here and I'm like,
Amen.
This is everything I've been thinking about and thinking towards and reading about. So I'm like, can I reach over and write that down? That's so good, Catherine. It kind of makes me think of just the whole message of your podcast, like the good, hard story. I love the whole concept of that. Can you talk a little bit about just the messaging of the good and the hard and how that can be one?
I do. I obviously am a big fan of the good, hard life. And that is the name of my podcast, The Good, Hard Story, because we are all living good, hard stories, because nobody's story is perfect.
Yeah.
There's good and hard in every story. They're not mutually exclusive. Yeah. Like we make them in our modern Western world. We want to think either things are really hard or they're really good. They can never coexist. And the reality is they totally coexist in the Christian life. We embrace a suffering Savior who came to earth, disabled himself, I believe, to the human body and died.
Wow.
Like the good hard of the story, of every story on earth is both. You know, I had a very difficult time embracing after my stroke the notion of Psalm 84:11, that no good thing has he withheld from those walking uprightly with him. How could that be true? How could it be true that God withholds no good thing? And the reality, I kind of did a deep dive and stumbled upon a beautifully written theologian's essay from the 1600s. His name was Sir Richard Baker. Look it up. He writes that the good things of God can never be taken because they are not things at all. They're nothing in the physical world. That the truly good things of God are peace of conscience, joy in the Holy Spirit, the fruition of His presence in this life, and the assurance of His face in the next.
Wow.
Of these things, we can know God will never withhold, because they are nothing that this physical world could ever touch. And for me, I mean, that's just such a deep, beautiful truth that my soul knows. Like somewhere deep inside of me, I know that's true. I understand. Something about translating it to my head and my understanding of, in Him, nothing will ever be taken from me that actually matters, no matter what happens to my physical body. It's not about the physical. Yeah. It's about the soul. Wow. And my soul is good. Wow. I got Jesus in here. I'm good. Wow. And yet I fall and break my leg, and I fall in a bathtub and crack a rib, and things can be really rough. And yet the good things of God have never left me, not for one moment. And I think that is a glorious, glorious truth of our faith.
Y'all, let's be real. When Father's Day rolls around, it is so hard to figure out what gift to get your dad. Sometimes dads can even be harder to buy for moms. I actually think it's always harder to buy for dad than mom, for sure. So whether it's a cute pic of, the kids or grandkids whenever they're younger, the enormous buck he shot last year, or a family photo, an Aura frame is the best way to display dad's favorite memories. Aura frames are Wi-Fi connected digital picture frames that let you share and display unlimited photos that your dad will love. With the Aura app, uploading pics to your frame is super simple, and if you're giving Aura as a gift, you can preload it with your favorite shareable moments, which I think this is key for Father's Day, because if I gave this to my dad and he had to do it all, he would never figure it out necessarily, and that's not because Aura isn't super simple. It's just because my dad is my dad. However, I get to upload all the pictures, which is the most fun thing because it's the gift that keeps on giving. Wirecutter named Aura frames the best digital photo frame, and it was even picked as was one of Oprah's favorite things. So whether you're gifting it to your dad, grandpa, husband, or brother, it will be a gift that he'll always remember. So my dad has gotten a lot softer in his older years, especially with his grandkids. And I'm constantly texting him pictures of Honey and different things that Honey and Haven are saying and doing. And so you could actually have this on a frame that's in his office or at his house that I can just shoot it to, and he can be surprised throughout the day as he gets to see all the cute grandkid pics. And again, even if he wants to upload pics as well, having all their hunting pics up there, having their family pics with their wife, all the things, it's just so fun and such a great gift for a dad. So right now, Aura has a great deal for Father's Day. Listeners can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $30 off on their best-selling frames. That's Aura Frames, AURA frames.com, and this deal ends June 18th, so don't wait. Now's the time to do it. Use the code WHOA at checkout to save. Terms and conditions apply. Wow, that's so beautiful. I was thinking about like how you said you have that in your soul, and then sometimes you have to get that, and the rest of you, like, I feel that way, where I love that verse. It's like, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. And one of my prayers lately has been like, God, I love you with all my heart. I believe this with all my heart. I believe this with my soul, but help my mind to get on board, like help my mind to also believe that, because like my thoughts will start creeping in, or this, that, or the other, the doubt. And I'm like, God, get my mind on board with what my heart believes to be true.
I call it, sometimes I got to get my soul back on board. I got to preach it to my own heart.
Yeah.
Psalm 42:5, we see that happening. The psalmist says, why are you downcast, O my soul? Why are you in turmoil within me? Hope in God, for I will again praise him, my rock and my salvation. So we literally see the psalmist have to get the soul back on board.
Get on board, yeah.
I know much deeper than what I'm feeling in this moment. I know what I truly want and need.
Yeah.
And these feelings are not getting me there.
Wow.
I got to get back, aligned with what I truly believe. And honestly, side note, our world is obsessed with living your authentic life, right?
Yeah.
So this actually is the most authentic because it's what I believe. So I'm going to get my soul back on board with what I actually authentically believe.
Good.
It makes sense.
That's so good. I love that way of looking at it. And one of the things that I love about hearing the way that you process, I guess, what you've been through too, is the scriptures that you've read, what you just quoted from that man. You really had to dive into finding these answers for yourself and the truth for yourself, because I think so many people, it's you want to get better. Again, how we talked about, you want the good outcome, but you don't want to do the hard work to get there. And I think that it is so important. Christian and I went through something a few years ago that was, the hardest thing we had walked through. And that was, and I've shared this story in small capacities, but Honey, our daughter, she had something happen medically that was very unexpected, very scary. She ended up having to get air flighted to a bigger city for a hospital. We were gone. We were speaking at a Passion event, and it was just really, really scary. It was really hard. And I remember similarly when I was there reading a psalm that I was just kind of processing what I was going through in the moment and reading this psalm. And it actually helped me navigate my feelings, because I really felt like I didn't really know what to pray at the time, but the psalmist was literally saying what I didn't know how to say to the Lord. And so I was just kind of tagging along to what he said, and just processing through it through the way that he did with God. Well, that wasn't oh, okay, that made it so much better. I mean, that helped, but it wasn't okay, that's it, that's good, I found the truth. It was months of a process of me kind of just walking out what that looked like with the Lord. And it exposed so many of my fears and so many of just all the things. And Christian and I in our marriage, we had never gone through something like that together. So we had to process how we process things completely differently, and it takes us a different route. And so anyways, it was just a thing that we had to go through. And I think about this, for one thing that I love about your podcast and your books and stuff is you teach people how to grieve. And one thing that you never do is you don't sugarcoat it. You don't sugarcoat the hard. And I think for me, I don't know, you have such a joyful personality, and maybe you've experienced this in the past too, but for me, it's like, I just want everything to be good. And so I would just try to like put a bow on it or put a scripture to it or like, okay, wrap this up. But the thing is, like, that doesn't heal it, right? Like, you have to go through the process. So can you speak a little bit about like diving into those hard questions?
Absolutely. The reality is, and you're exactly right, I do have a joyful, exuberant personality, but that's hard-fought at this point. That's not like necessarily the baseline. The reality is, after the stroke, before I could really come up for air, before I could speak or write about it, process it fully, I spent 5 years in the darkness, wrestling, not knowing how I could live this disabled body life, never walk on my own, never drive a car, probably never have more biological children. That's what they were saying at the time. Just have my entire world flipped like, God, I don't even know if I can live this way. So those first 5 years of processing, which for some people, it may be 15, it may be 30, I don't know. For me, taking the time to lament, to feel the weight of the loss, and honestly, letting the story break my heart, letting me be wrecked. Like, I'm not okay, this is shocking, and it's horrible. And I don't pretend to put a Jesus Band-Aid on this bullet wound, because I'm going to need so much more of Jesus than merely a Band-Aid. Like, come on. I'm my whole life's been turned upside down. The thought of a cliche Bible verse is ludicrous. I need the deep truths of Jesus. I don't need to hear Romans 8:28 right now. All things are working together for the good of those who love him. Yes. But I'm going to need that down the road. On day one, I'm going to need to cry and let the story break my heart. I'm going to recognize and process that this is messed up. This is not okay. I'm not tying a hopeful bow around this one. No.
That's so good. I love how you said, I don't want to put a Jesus Band-Aid on a bullet wound. Like, I need a lot more Jesus than that. I was actually listening to one of your podcasts on grieving with people, and you talk about how less words are the best words. And I thought that was such a good, helpful piece of advice, because that is so real. It's like, everyone kind of feels that way when you have a friend go through something extremely hard, where you're so overthinking what you're going to say or how you're going to show up, or if you're going to show up, and should I, and this and that and the other. And you really dive into it. Your presence is really what's needed. And I love how you speak on the tears speak for themselves. Like, you didn't need to hear Romans 8:28 at the time. And you really just needed someone to sit with you and to lean into your story with you. So I love that you talk about that. So tell me a little.
Sadie, I love that you are calling that out, because that's everything. The ministry of tears versus the ministry of truth. Like, cry with people. Get in there. Be present and listen empathetically. But don't try to put a bunch of words around it. It's not time yet.
It's so helpful and so freeing too, because everyone can show up. Like, you can show up as a friend. You might not know the words to say. You might not know how to process, but you don't need to. They don't have that either. I was actually talking to someone literally right before I got on this call. And this person is a friend, a very close friend to someone else who just went through an extremely tragic situation, very unexpected. And he was telling me that, I mean, he just, immediately got emotional, and he said that his friend called him as soon as it happened, and he was there 4 hours later. He got on a plane, just got there. And he said, I didn't know what to do in that situation, but I just knew I needed to be there. And I actually told him what I just heard you say about just that idea of showing up in your tears. And he was just kind of saying that was really all he could give, but how powerful that was, and how, coming from that, it's like there wasn't anything said. There's not a bow to put on there. There's nothing to do. It's just to be and to know that these people are with you.
It's awful that this happened. It's terrible. It's tragic. And my tears I give to you.
Yeah.
Because this is jacked up.
Yeah.
And we live in a horrible, fallen world, and yet there is such a deep, real joy available in Jesus, and those coexist. I mean,
it's
that's
so true. Oh man, I love that you keep saying it coexists. Actually, my friends and I say it like this because we always talk about how like a lot of life is bittersweet, you know, like most seasons there's like something bitter and there's something sweet. So we'll kind of say it like, okay, what's your bitter and what's your sweet? Like what's going on right now that's hard and what's going on right now that's good, because there's most of the time both, you know, and some seasons there's more of maybe the bitter and a little bit of the sweet, and some vice versa. There's a lot of sweet. And I remember even walking with one of my friends, my best friend, you know, Lainey, you know, she's been so open about her story with grief when she lost her second baby. And it was really hard because when she lost her baby, I was pregnant with mine. And I just remember being like so overwhelmed by how we were going to walk through that together as best friends, because I was truly mourning with her as a friend. But of course, rejoicing what I was walking in, but mourning with her alongside of that. And we learned a lot of what it looks like to be able, that God gave us a stunning capacity to be able to rejoice with those who rejoice and to mourn with those who mourn. And sometimes that is at the same time. And vice versa. I've gone through things, like I mentioned with Honey, that were extremely hard when others of my friends were going through extremely great times. But yet you learn how to do that as humans who are, I love how it talks about, again, I wish I could quote this verse better, but it talks about like we, you know, but like get comfort from like the God of comfort. I can't even remember how.
Oh, I know.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, 2 Corinthians 1, that we comfort others with the comfort that we ourselves have received. It's a cycle of comfort. Yes, I love that thought.
I love that verse, because I always think about that when it comes to those times where a friend is going through something hard and you're having a good time in life, or you're going through something hard, and it's like you have the ability to comfort each other because we have been comforted by the ultimate comforter. And so anyways,
absolutely.
Gosh, we could talk about this forever, but I want to get to talking about your camp, because I think on the note of being with other people and comforting other people and being alongside other people going through hard things, tell me about just the vision behind you and Jay starting this camp. You know, we've been on the go lately, and so it is so nice to just be home, even if it's just for a night. We love being home. We love being with our people, just in the space that we love most. And one of the things that makes our home extra comfy and cozy are our Miracle Made sheets. Thanks to the silver-infused NASA-inspired fabrics that are designed to keep you at the perfect temperature all night long, Miracle Made sheets help you get a better night's sleep every single night. The silver that's infused into Miracle sheets prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them feeling cleaner and fresher up to 3 times longer than any other brands, plus preventing all that bacteria that will help your skin suffer from less acne, breakouts, and clogged pores. So pretty amazing, right? If I haven't sold you there, then I don't know what else to say, y'all. These sheets are amazing. They are cleaner, cooler, super comfy, but the best part is they don't have that crazy high price tag of all the other luxury brands. So you can have, you know, all the best sheets in the world, but you don't have to break the bank doing it, which is amazing. We love our Miracle Made sheets. I remember the first night we slept on them, me and Christian were like, okay, yeah, sold. We are never going back. We then bought some more for our guest bed so that they can have the same experience whenever people stay with us. We love also that they stay cleaner longer. It just makes us feel better knowing we have kids in the bed and our dog in the bed and all the things, knowing that have a little extra support there. So go to trymiracle.com/whoa to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or buying them for a loved one, which would be an incredible gift to give someone, you can order today and save 40%. So also, if you use the code WHOA at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. This is a great deal. Don't miss it. Miracle is so confident in their product. It's also backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund, friend. But I don't think you're going to have a problem. So upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/whoa and use the code WHOA to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/whoa to treat yourself today.
Oh, goodness. Well, there was such a need. You know, many times when someone has a disability, they're sent off to a camp-like setting on their own. And our thought was, wait, I don't want to go to a camp by myself. I want my family to be there. I want to experience a family unit, and my kids and my husband need refreshment and the deep truths of Jesus in a vacation like summertime in Alabama, even more than I do sometimes. And we wanted a place of just radical belonging and belovedness for people affected by disability and their families to come together and to create a sense of normalcy in it, and a kind of a rebellion, honestly, or a rebellion to the darkness, I call it, that we get to be joy rebels and rebel joyfully to the lie. We get to disrupt the lie, I believe, that joy can only come in a pain-free life, because we know that's not true.
Yeah.
When you are in our camp community and very much seeing life is not okay. There's somebody that's an amputee right here, and this little girl has spina bifida, and this man has another condition, and very much in front of your face is like, wow, everything is just messed up in this world. It's this bizarre freedom, because no one's pretending everything's okay.
Yeah.
Everything is falling apart. It's so freeing. So we're all like, but you know what? We're here. And we have this moment. And we have each other. And we have Jesus. And we can do this hard life because we are not alone. We are with each other. And it's just a balm to the soul. It's amazing. Our camp community is just the coolest.
I can't wait to be there one day. And I know you kind of shouted this out to the people listening at the beginning, but that you are able to volunteer. So if that's something as you're listening, you're able to step into, definitely, where can you go to look into how to do that?
Thank you for asking. HopeHealsCamp.org, or just go to our website, hopeheals.com, and please come and volunteer. Everyone who volunteers leaves saying, this was the best week of my life, and they've been serving in the heat of Alabama in the summertime, people with disabilities, and they could be going on a safari in Africa, and they still say, Hope Heals can't beat it. It was the coolest experience of my entire life, because service does that. You know that, Sadie. Serving other people unlocks something deep in the soul. It changes how you feel about your story, which, if I may, I'd love to say that to your listeners, that is what we are called to do, everybody, is change the narrative, flip the script. Who says you can't love your story, even if it's a hard story? You can say, you know what? I never would have chosen this for my life, not in a million years. But for some reason, this is it. And I get to decide how I feel now. And I feel great because Jesus is right here with me. There are twists and turns and pain and problems. But I get to decide that, you know what? This is a great story. This is a great life. And nobody else gets to tell you how to feel about your story. You get to decide that.
That's so good. I love that so much. It's actually one of my favorite things that you talk about, is that you get to decide. And I love how when you talk about it, you're talking to such a wide scale of people who go through so many different things. I mean, you get to decide in your story where you experienced something at 26 years old that was life-altering. You get to decide when you're going through the hard thing with your kids being in the hospital. But then I've also heard you even say that when you moved to Georgia, you decided that you love Georgia before,
exactly right. Sadie, I love how much you're tracking. You're exactly right. That when we moved from California back to Atlanta 5 years ago, we live in Atlanta, Georgia now, I decided while we were still in California, guess what? We're going to love it in Georgia. It's going to be awesome. And like, it's going to top anything that was happening in Los Angeles, California. And, Atlanta is absolutely amazing. So it's not that I'm, making that up, but, potentially I could be like, that's okay. But instead, I'm like, I love it here. This place is amazing. And I think there's a lot to that. Just go ahead and decide. It's going to be awesome because it is.
I love that so much because I actually say that all the time about where I live. So we live in a small town and there's not like a ton of exciting things here, but I love it here. And it's so funny because I'll be talking about how much I love it here and it catches people so off guard. They're like, what? Like, you love living here? Like, people that have lived here forever. And I'm like, I love it here. Like, this is so great. And I do think that a lot of it is, like, how you choose to talk about things, how you choose to respond to things, pre-deciding that you're going to love it and you're going to have a good time. And so
it's how you narrate it to your head and your heart and to other people. Narration is so important. How do I speak about this? How do I intentionally tell my head and my heart that this is what we're doing?
Yep.
It's so beautiful.
I love that. Okay, I want to also just ask you about this book because this is the first book that you wrote solo, right? And so tell us a little bit about why you wrote this book and the process of doing it.
Well, I should say it's not solo. It's without Jay, but it's with my sister-in-law, Alex Wolf. So essentially, I know too much to write a straight-up devotional. It's just, Lord love a devotional, but many times a devotional can be pretty one note. And this is a devotional, but I don't call it that because this is a reflection guide and it has 3 sections. So it's for the hurting, for the hoping, and for the healing. And I know one day you can feel hopeful, but the next day you're back to hurting, and the next day you're healing. And I wanted a choose your own adventure situation that you can cherry pick 100% and say, today